Okay, so talking about our elevations, if we go look at our elevations, and I'll just click on my front elevation, for example, here. Okay, so on the screen you have the front elevation of the building I've been working on, and you'll see that there's a number of section cuts on there. Probably not all of those section cuts I'm going to put into the set of plans. So make sure that if there's a section cut on here that you're not going to incorporate into your plans, that it doesn't show up on your elevation sheet, because it'll show up with blanks in here, right? So if this was a final set of drawings and it went out to the builder to build the building, and he's going to be looking for information and he's going to see the section cut, he's going to go look for that section in the set of plans, and it's not there, so it's confusing. So anytime you have a section cut that's not going to be in there, just hide it in the view. Okay, so hide the element in the view so you don't hide the ones that are meaningful for the project. So sometimes we put those section cuts in just to verify things on the plan, right? To make sure that our column was in the right location, or a beam is at the right height, or whatever. So if those happen, just make sure that you hide those in the view. The other thing is these elevation bubbles. They've been coming out a little bit too random, and some covering up other ones because you didn't go in and click on them to move them down. So in this case, if this one had come out straight, it would be hiding that roof one, right? And that's been happening on several of your drawings. So make sure that you look at all of those and get them moved out so that you can easily read all of your elevation bubbles. All of your elevation bubbles should be in a nice line. They should be lined up below each other. And these break lines should also line up. So if I click on this and I click on that, you'll notice that all of those are lined up straight up and down. All the breaks are. That'll make your drawing look more uniform if you can line all that stuff up. On the other hand, if this one was back here and this one was over here, that's a little messier looking. So we've got to try to line those up so that those breaks are all in the same location. Okay, that'll improve the look of your drawing. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, make sure that your grid line bubbles are above everything, so that they're above your building and that they don't interfere with a section cut somewhere. If they do interfere with a section cut, we can break them if we have to and move them over. That'd be one option. I'm just going to undo that. In this case, it just makes sense to either move this down or move these down, right? So you have several options. One of the problems that we discovered yesterday was if these are too low, because we have a two-story building, if I move these down here, also they don't work out well on our elevations, but then if I went to my level 2 roof, I don't have grid lines on it because they're below that level. So that's a problem that you could run into with a two-story building. So just make sure they're in a good location that doesn't interfere with anything else. Okay. The other thing is sometimes they'll default and be extending way past your building because maybe your crop window is way big. We can adjust those as long as it says 2D here. If it says 3D, you're going to affect them on every elevation and your floor plan and your other plans. But if they say 3D here, you can click on it and change it to 2D, which I've done. And then once they're 2D, you can move them on this plan and they won't affect other plans. Okay? In this case, most of them moved, but this one didn't. And it's still a 2D, but I can line it up. Okay? So as long as it says 2D, you can move them without messing up your other elevation views. Okay. The reason for moving those in might be space on your sheet. You don't want those running off the sheet somewhere. Okay, so let's look at my rear elevation. You know, everything's lined up good before I put it on a sheet. You know, I probably have some section cuts that I want to hide in the view. My right elevation. Everything's lined up. Everything looks good. Left elevation. They're overlapping on top of my building. So I need to move those out a little bit. So if I click on, let's click on the roof one here. Okay. If you zoom in, you'll see it says 3D there. If you zoom in real close, you're probably hard to see, but it says 3D. If I change it to 2D, now I can move these out without it affecting another sheet. And I have to move them a little farther than that. But well, that one said 3D. Okay, I should have changed that to 2D. So I'm not going to spend any time on that during this, but make sure that they're not overlapping into the building like that is the main point. Okay, so then we're going to go and drag those onto a sheet somewhere. So here I've put those on my sheet. Sometimes they'll automatically have shown up on that elevation sheet because it's been assigned to them, but sometimes you'll have to drag them on. So depending on how your template was made. So here you'll see that I moved those so they were closer to the building on this end of my front elevation, but on my rear elevation they stick way out. So I need to move those on my rear elevation as well. And the purpose of that is because I want to put this elevation over here in the corner as far as I can get it. Why do I want to not center that on the sheet nice so that they're nice and balanced on the sheet? Well, I might want to put something else on this sheet. You'll find that the more stuff you can pack on a sheet, the better off your set of drawings will look. So in this case, I'm going to put my elevations on this sheet. I can't get more than 2 on there, but I want to leave some space in case I want to bring something else on there. I might want to have a detail of my curtain wall that doesn't give me enough information on this elevation here, so I might blow it up and put it over here. There might be another exterior element of the building that I need to give more detail to, and I could put that over here. So you want to fill the sheet, get as much information on as few a sheet as possible. So rather than having 20 sheets to a set of drawings, because you've only put minimal stuff on each sheet, you want to put as much as you can on a sheet and maybe reduce that to a 15-sheet set or something, just because you've put as much as you can on a sheet. Okay. When the title comes in, you want to make sure that the title is appropriately located on your sheet. I'm not going to go back in and adjust these right now, but I'd want to line up my buildings if possible too. My elevations, I should say. So I should take this and move it over a little bit, right? I want to line up the end of the building with the end of this building. So if I go to annotate and put a detail line on here, now this detail line is just on the sheet. Then I can click on this one and move it from this location to this location. And now everything's lined up nice. Then I can delete that temporary line that I put in. Okay, and again, this is an example of I wouldn't want those grid lines going across my border sheet, so I'd have to pull those back within the view. Okay, this title block extension line is going way too long, so if I click on my view, I can bring that back. I can move this title over so it lines up with the other one. It will tell me the right spot. Drag this one back. Okay, so now everything's kind of nice and uniform on that elevation sheet, and I have some room over here for general notes that might refer to my elevations or some other details that I might want to incorporate that relate to the elevations. You don't want to put things on the elevation sheet that relate to the foundation or relate to some other part of the building that don't pertain to the elevations. So it could be a roof edge detail, it could be a curtain wall detail, could be on some buildings it might be a balcony detail or something like that, or a railing detail, or it could be some general notes that apply to the elevations themselves. Okay, then I'll go to my other elevation sheet, which I have my end elevations on, and you'll see that I've kind of, again, located them as close as I could to the left side of the sheet. I have to do some adjusting down here because these bubbles aren't in the right spot. I need to fix that stuff, so I'll have to do that. And I've left a good area over here for adding details to it. Even if I don't put anything on here, say I didn't have any general notes, I don't have any other details, I still want to leave that space available because you're going to submit your plans for verification and evaluation, and then once that's done, whoever's evaluating your drawings might say, well, let's put some other stuff over here. You want to have that space available. Okay. Any questions about that part? Okay, let's go back to the floor plan for a second. And this is an L-shaped building, so I really don't have any areas of the building that are hidden by other parts of the building when I go to my elevations. But if you did have, say, a U-shaped building, you might have part of the building that you can't get an elevation shot up. Well, we can always add elevation tags. So under View at the top here, we can go to an elevation tag, and we want to go to a elevation project. And we'll be putting in a similar tag to these that are on the drawing already. And so I might want to have just an elevation of this area right here. So I could put in an elevation tag right here. When you click on the triangular part of that elevation, it gives you this section cut line. And we can drag this way back in here. And it goes to that interior wall there. And if I click on that elevation now, that is just that portion of the building. And it becomes actually a partial section of the upper part of my building that's hanging over that area. Okay, but it shows this wall that it hangs down in, and there's probably should be a ceiling in here. I probably just discovered that by creating this partial elevation. And again, I'd have to adjust these elevation callouts. This square box is the crop window, and we can turn that off, of course. And you could create another elevation then that you could drag onto your sheet. So let's go back to our floor plan. In the past, I haven't required you to keep these on your elevation on your floor plan, these elevation tags, because of space on the sheet or whatever. This time I want you to have those on. So just remember that if they're stuck way out here, we can always just move those over as close as we can get them in here. Without interfering with something else. this one I could easily move over this way a little bit. Move it down here. Whenever you click on the little triangle on the front, that tells you what you're getting an elevation of. So you can adjust those if you need to. And then when we go to our floor plan sheet, and I should have had that floor plan on there already, but I don't, so okay, so all those tags are on the sheet, and oops, what happened there? Of course, my call out needs to be addressed and brought over. Now this one elevation hasn't been drug onto a sheet yet, so there's no numbers in it. These other ones all have the numbers. So if I go back to my elevation sheets, I want to drag that one on that I've created, which is elevation 1A here. First off, I'd want to rename it. That would be my right elevation 2 maybe, because in my case it's it didn't really need to be there. But then I could drag that on, and this might be an example of where I'd want to put that. And again, it should line up straight across. So I know some of you have U-shaped buildings, so you're going to have maybe 6 elevations instead of just the standard 4.